Welcome to this video. Today we're diving into a topic that most people have never heard of, but it's secretly shaping the way businesses, governments, and even schools operate. It's called Data Envelopment Analysis, or DEA, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why mastering this concept can give any organization a major edge. But first, let me ask you a question. Imagine you own a factory. You've got workers, machines, and materials, and you're producing goods every single day. Now, your competitor across town has the same resources, but somehow they're producing twice as much as you. Same inputs, double the output. What's going on? Are they cheating? Are they using some kind of secret formula? Not exactly. They're just more efficient. Efficiency is the secret weapon of every successful company, school, or government office. It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter. And DEA is the tool that measures who's doing it right and who's falling behind. In this video, we'll break it all down, what DEA actually is and how it works, how it's used in real-world case studies to measure performance, why businesses and governments rely on it to save millions. And here's a quick challenge for you. Think about your workplace, school, or even your daily routine. Where do you see wasted effort? Where do things feel slow, repetitive, or unnecessary? By the end of this video, you might just have the answer to fixing it. Stick around, because this is something you won't learn in school, but it's used by some of the most powerful decision makers in the world. Let's get started. All right, so you already know why you're here. Let's dive straight into the heart of today's topic, Data Envelopment Analysis, or DEA. Now, you might be thinking, wait, is this going to be another one of those boring business lectures? Absolutely not. This is going to be the most practical real-world explanation of a tool that could revolutionize the way organizations run. Picture this. You're managing a team of superheroes. They all have powers, they all have resources, but here's the thing. Some of them are just way more effective than others. One hero uses one punch to stop a disaster, another uses 10 punches to do the same thing. DEA is like the tech guy in the superhero HQ who says, hey, let's figure out who's being efficient and who's wasting their energy. So what exactly is DEA? It's a tool that measures efficiency. Simple as that. But it's not just any tool, it's one that compares organizations based on how well they use their inputs to produce outputs. Here's an example to make it crystal clear. Imagine two hospitals. Both have the same number of doctors, nurses, beds, and equipment, but Hospital A treats 1,000 patients a month, while Hospital B struggles to treat even 700. What's the difference? One is using its resources better. That's what we call efficiency, and DEA is the tool that reveals it. Now, you might think this only applies to big corporations or government institutions. Nope. DEA can be used in any field: education, healthcare, manufacturing, public services, you name it. If there are inputs and outputs, DEA is there to figure out who's nailing it and who's wasting potential. Let's take it a step further. Think about your favorite coffee shop. You might love the vibe, the baristas, or that perfectly brewed cappuccino, but have you ever wondered how much effort goes into running that shop? How many baristas? How much milk, how many machines, and are all those resources being used in the best way possible? Probably not. This is why DEA is such a game changer. It doesn't just tell you which coffee shop is popular, it tells you which one is the most efficient. Maybe the shop you love spends twice as much on employees and equipment as the one down the street that serves just as many customers. DEA is the tool that makes those comparisons transparent. But let's not stop there. What about schools? Some schools produce amazing results, high graduation rates, stellar test scores, but do it with half the funding of others. DEA helps identify these outliers so their methods can be studied and shared. Or take manufacturing. Some factories churn out 1,000 products a day with minimal resources, while others burn through materials, energy, and manpower just to produce half of that. Again, DEA steps in and says, let's take a closer look at what's going on here. Now, here's the part where it gets interesting. DEA isn't just about identifying inefficiencies, it's about providing actionable insights. For example, if one organization is lagging behind, DEA doesn't just say, you're inefficient. It shows exactly where the gaps are. Is it staffing? Is it technology? Is it workflow? This is the kind of clarity that organizations crave. But let me throw it back to you for a second. Think about your own life, your daily routine. Where are your inputs and outputs not matching up? Maybe you're spending hours studying but not retaining information, or you're working out but not seeing the results you want. DEA might be a tool for businesses, but the concept of measuring efficiency applies everywhere. Here's a fun thought experiment. If you could analyze your daily life using DEA, what would you find? Where are you spending too much time, energy, or money for too little return? Drop a comment with your ideas. I'd love to see how you'd apply this to your own world. All right, so what's next? In this video, we're going to take you deeper into how DEA works. We'll look at the math behind it, the case studies that show its real-world impact, and the insights it can provide to organizations big and small. Stick around, because by the end of this, you won't just understand DEA, you'll see the world through its lens. You'll start noticing inefficiencies everywhere, and you might just come up with ways to improve them. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest showdown of efficiency you'll ever see. It's time for Who's the Most Efficient? The game where organizations, businesses, and maybe even you go head to head to see who's getting the best results with the least amount of resources. Are you ready? Here's today's big question. Two companies, both have the same number of employees, both work the same hours, both spend the same amount of money on resources, but one company is delivering double the results. What's happening here? Is it AA, the first company, has a secret team of superhumans? EB, the second company, just spends all day in meetings that could have been emails? C, pure luck? Hey, some people just have it easier? Or D, one company is running way more efficiently than the other? All right, lock in your answer. Think about it. Ready? Drum roll, please. The correct answer is D. Efficiency is the name of the game, folks. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. And that's exactly what one of these companies has figured out. Now, let's take this idea a little deeper. Efficiency isn't just some buzzword. It's not just about profits or results. It's about how those results are achieved. Are you getting more done with less? Are you maximizing every resource you have? Or are you, like that second company, spinning your wheels and wasting potential? This is where Data Envelopment Analysis, or DEA, comes in. It's not just a tool, it's the ultimate referee. Think of it as the scorekeeper in this game of efficiency. DEA looks at all the players, whether they're companies, hospitals, schools, or government offices, and says, all right, let's see who's really performing at their best. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're running a bakery. You've got the same ingredients, the same ovens, and the same number of bakers as the bakery down the street. But for some reason, they're baking 500 cakes a day, and you're only managing 300. What's going on? Are they cutting corners? Do they have some kind of magic oven, or are they just running their operation more efficiently? That's what DEA uncovers. It's the tool that shows you who's getting the most out of their inputs, whether that's employees, money, materials, or time, and who's just coasting along. But here's the kicker. DEA doesn't just work for bakeries. It works in any industry, anywhere in the world. In healthcare, it reveals which hospitals are saving lives with the least resources. In education, it shows which schools are producing top students without breaking their budgets. In manufacturing, it highlights which factories are delivering top quality products without wasting energy or materials. And here's why this matters. In every field, there's always someone who's doing more with less. They're not just winning, they're rewriting the playbook for efficiency. And DEA is how we find those players, study what they're doing, and replicate their success. Let's go back to our game show for a second. Imagine if every business, hospital, or school had to step up to the podium and answer one simple question. Are you making the most of what you have? How do you think they do? Now, let's talk about inputs and outputs for a second, because this is where the magic really happens. Inputs are what you put into the system. Your resources, your money, your time. Outputs are the results, your products, your services, your impact. DA doesn't just measure one or the other, it compares the two. It says, all right, for every dollar you spend, for every hour your employees work, how much value are you creating? And the results can be eye-opening. For example, a real-world DEA study looked at government offices. One office had an efficiency score of just 37.5%. What does that mean? It means they could reduce their workforce by 62.5% and still get the same results. Imagine the potential savings, both in money and time, if they operated more efficiently. And that's just one example. There are countless others across every industry you can think of. But here's the twist. DEA doesn't just call out inefficiencies, it also celebrates the top performers. It shows us who's on the efficiency frontier, the best of the best, and what we can learn from them. Now, I want you to think about your own life for a second. Where are you spending too much energy for too little return? Maybe it's your workday. Maybe it's your morning routine. Maybe it's that one friend who always takes 45 minutes to tell a 5-minute story. If you could measure your own inputs and outputs, what would you find? Here's your challenge. Drop a comment below and tell me where you think you're running inefficiently. Is it your schedule, your workflow, that endless scroll through social media? Because by the end of this video, you'll have the tools to start thinking like an efficiency expert, not just for businesses, but for your own life. All right. The game show is just getting started, and DEA is the star of the show. Stick with me, because we're about to dive even deeper into how this works, why it's so powerful, and how it's changing industries across the globe. Let's play. Team, gather around. Picture this. You're a football coach standing on the edge of the pitch. The whistle's just blown, the game is on, and you've got two teams out there. Both have 11 players. Both have the same fancy cleats, the same state-of-the-art equipment, and the same hours of training under their belts. On the surface, everything looks equal. But here's the kicker. Team A is dominating the field, scoring goal after goal, effortlessly gliding past the defenders. Team B, they're running like headless chickens, losing possession, missing passes, and wasting energy on the wrong moves. Same resources, same time, but completely different results. Now, as a coach, you've got one burning question in your mind. What's Team A doing that Team B isn't? Why is one team crushing it while the other looks like they've never seen a football before? The answer isn't luck, and it's not just raw talent, it's efficiency. Team A knows exactly how to position themselves, when to pass, when to strike, and when to conserve energy. They've mastered the art of getting the most out of every player and every second on the clock. And as the coach, you step in with your clipboard and start analyzing who's running the most, who's running the least, who's delivering results, and who's just wasting time. That's exactly what Data Envelopment Analysis, or DEA, does in the real world. It's like being the ultimate football coach for businesses, organizations, and industries. Now let's take this football analogy and blow it up to a bigger playing field, the field of register offices. Yes, the places you go for birth certificates, marriage licenses, and official paperwork. Just like our football teams, these offices are all playing the same game. They've got staff, office hours, and equipment. Their goal? To process as many documents as possible. But guess what? Just like in football, not all offices are performing at the same level. Some are operating like Team A, quick, efficient, and scoring big. Others, they're fumbling the ball, using twice the resources to get half the results. Now, imagine you're the coach for these register offices. You've got 5 of them. Office A, B, C, D, and E. And your job is to figure out who's winning, who's losing, and how to get everyone up to the same championship level. That's where DEA steps in. It's your tactical playbook, your match analysis, your tool for separating the star players from the underperformers. Here's a real-life example. Office A, They've got an efficiency score of just 37.5%. What does that mean? It means they could reduce their workforce by 62.5% and still produce the same number of documents. Imagine telling a football player, you're running 3 times as much as you need to, and you're still not scoring. That's Office A. Then you've got Office D, scoring at 66.7%. Better, but still not quite playing at the championship level. They could cut their workload by a third and still hit their targets. So what's the difference between the efficient offices and the inefficient ones? Just like in football, it comes down to strategy and execution. Are they using their employees wisely? Are their workflows streamlined, or are they stuck in outdated playbooks? Are they focusing on high-value tasks or wasting time on things that don't matter? DEA doesn't just tell you who's performing well, it shows you how to fix what's broken. It's the coach whispering in your ear, shift your striker forward, pull back your defender, stop wasting time in the midfield. Except in the real world, it's cut redundant processes, train your staff better, and stop overloading one department while another sits idle. But here's the fun part. DEA isn't just for register offices. This coaching tool works everywhere. Hospitals, schools, factories, even entire governments. Wherever there are resources going in and results coming out, DEA steps in to measure efficiency and show where the gaps are. Let's bring it back to you for a second. Imagine you're running your own football team. Not on the pitch, but in your daily life. Think about your own inputs, your time, energy, and money. Are you spending them like Team A, efficiently and effectively, or are you burning through them like Team B, running in circles with no goals in sight? Here's your challenge. Drop a comment below and tell me where you think inefficiency is hiding in your own life. Is it your job, your commute, that one friend who can't stop sending memes during work hours? Wherever it is, DEA is the tool that could coach you into becoming your own efficiency champion. All right, team, let's huddle up and dive deeper. In this video, we're going to break down exactly how DEA works, look at more real-world case studies, and show you how organizations are transforming their game with this tool. Let's hit the field and make every move count. You're running a company. Your goal? Maximum efficiency. You're not here to waste resources, you're here to win. But here's the problem. You don't actually know if your company is operating at peak performance. Sure, you're making money, you're producing products, but could you be doing it better? Could you be producing more with less? That's where the constant returns to scale, CRS model comes in. This is the system that tells us whether an organization is truly operating at full potential or if it's just throwing more money, people, and resources at problems instead of fixing them. Let's break it down. CRS assumes that when you double your inputs, whether it's money, staff, or production capacity, you should double your outputs. Simple, right? If a factory hires twice as many workers and buys twice as many machines, it should be producing twice as many products. If a hospital doubles its staff, it should be able to treat twice as many patients. But here's where reality hits. Businesses think that scaling up automatically means scaling results, and that's a dangerous myth. Think about a restaurant. A small burger joint with 5 chefs produces 100 burgers an hour. So logically, if you hire 10 chefs, you should be making 200 burgers an hour, right? Not always. If the kitchen is too small, if the workflow isn't optimized, if the extra staff are just getting in each other's way, then hiring more people actually slows everything down. That's what CRS helps measure. It separates the companies that are growing smart from the ones that are just blindly expanding. Here's a real-world example. A factory was producing 10,000 units a month. They assumed that if they doubled their workforce, they'd be making 20,000. So they hired more people, invested in more machines, and expanded their production line. But after all that effort, their output only increased to 14,000 units. What went wrong? The factory floor got too crowded. Workers were literally in each other's way. Machines needed more maintenance, because they were running overtime. Supervisors had to spend more time managing, leading to slower decision making. They added more, but they didn't optimize. And that's the key takeaway. Before any business scales up, they need to ask, are we already operating at full efficiency, or are we just making the same mistakes, but at a larger scale? CRS tells us whether a company is growing the right way or just inflating itself like a balloon ready to pop. So what happens when a company isn't at optimal efficiency? That's where variable returns to scale, VRS, comes in, and that's what we're diving into next. Growth, expansion, scaling up. Every business dreams of it. Every entrepreneur chases it. But here's the harsh reality. Not all growth is good growth. Some companies expand too fast and collapse under their own weight. Others stay too small and miss their full potential. And then there are those rare few that grow just right, finding the perfect balance between resources and output. So how do you know which category you fall into? That's where the variable returns to scale, VRS model, steps in. This is the tool that reveals whether your company is scaling smart or setting itself up for disaster. Let's break it down. The VRS model is different from the constant returns to scale, the CRS model we talked about earlier. CRS assumes that if you double your inputs, you should double your outputs. A nice, clean, linear growth pattern. But in the real world, that rarely happens. Businesses don't operate in straight lines. They operate in phases. Sometimes scaling up boosts efficiency. Sometimes it drags them down. VRS helps us analyze this in 3 key ways. Increasing returns to scale, IRS. You add resources and your output grows even faster. This is the sweet spot where every extra employee, every extra dollar, every extra machine amplifies results. Constant returns to scale, CRS. You add resources and your output grows at the exact same rate. No efficiency gained, but no efficiency lost. Decreasing returns to scale, DRS. You add resources, but your output grows slower than expected. The more you add, the worse it gets. This is the danger zone. Now, let's see how this plays out in the real world. Think of a young, hungry startup. A few employees, a tiny office, a shoestring budget, but they're hustling hard, getting massive results with minimal resources. This is increasing returns to scale. Every dollar they spend, every person they hire multiplies their success. Now, picture a giant corporation, thousands of employees, multiple layers of management, endless departments. They pour millions into new projects, but the returns aren't what they used to be. Instead of skyrocketing profits, they see marginal growth at best. Sometimes adding more staff just makes decision-making slower. Investing in new tech leads to confusion. Bureaucracy kills innovation. This is decreasing returns to scale, where adding more doesn't give you more. VRS is how we measure this shift. It tells us when a company is in its prime growth phase, where adding resources supercharges success, when a company is hitting diminishing returns, where adding more isn't making a difference, when a company is in the danger zone, where every extra resource actually hurts performance. A car manufacturer had a brilliant idea: double production, double profits. So they invested millions in new workers, new machines, and new warehouses. But instead of doubling their output, they only saw a 30% increase. Why? The production lines got too crowded. Workers started bumping into each other. Too many managers meant slower decision making. Instead of fixing problems fast, they had endless meetings. The supply chain got stretched too thin. More production meant more materials, more logistics, and more potential for delays. This company had entered decreasing returns to scale. If they had used DEA and the VRS model, they would have realized that instead of expanding blindly, they needed to optimize first. VRS isn't just for factories or corporations, it applies everywhere. Restaurants, at a certain point, hiring more chefs won't make food come out faster if the kitchen is too small. Schools, Adding more teachers won't improve learning if students aren't engaged in the first place. Startups. Expanding too fast can destroy company culture and overwhelm leadership. Businesses that understand VRS don't just grow, they grow intelligently. They know when to add resources, when to pause and optimize, and when to cut back to avoid waste. So here's the big question. Where do you see variable returns to scale in the world around you? Have you worked for a company that expanded too fast and crashed? Have you seen a business that grew smart and dominated the market? Drop a comment with your thoughts, because once you understand this concept, you'll start seeing efficiency, or the lack of it, everywhere. Up next, we'll take a deep dive into how DEA actually calculates these efficiency scores and what organizations can do once they uncover their true performance levels. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event of the night. In this corner, we've got the reigning champion of efficiency analysis, the constant returns to scale, CRS model, smooth, steady, and always proportional. And in the opposite corner, bringing the heat with its flexibility and adaptability, the one and only challenger, variable returns to scale, VRS model. Tonight, these two heavyweights are squaring off in the ultimate showdown, the battle of scale models. Who's got what it takes to help businesses dominate the efficiency game? Let's break it down. Smackdown style. First up, let's talk about the CRS model. This bad boy believes in equality. If you double your inputs, you should double your outputs. It's like saying if you pour twice the effort into your training, you should get twice as strong. Clean, simple, linear, perfect for teams and organizations that are already operating at their best. No surprises, just steady growth. But here's the thing. CRS only works when the playing field is level, when you're already optimized, and when you're playing in a system where everything grows proportionally. Need a model that says, steady as she goes? CRS is your champ. But now let's hear it for the challenger, the VRS model. This is the wild card, the model that says, let's keep it real. Growth isn't always proportional. VRS knows that sometimes you can pour in more resources and get massive returns. We call that increasing returns to scale. Other times, adding more might barely move the needle or even backfire. That's decreasing returns to scale. VRS doesn't play by fixed rules. It's the agile, flexible underdog that adapts to real-world chaos. Is your organization struggling to grow despite throwing money at the problem? Or maybe you're in that golden zone where every dollar you spend feels like a jackpot win. VRS sees it all and lays it all bare. Let's go to the judges. Here's how the match plays out. CRS shines when you're already operating at peak efficiency. It gives you a clear, consistent measure to make sure everything's scaling up smoothly. VRS, on the other hand, is your go-to when life isn't that simple. Are your operations struggling to scale? Is your team underperforming? Or maybe you're overdoing it and wasting resources. VRS calls out inefficiencies and helps you figure out how to fix them. So, who wins? The truth is, they're both champions, but they play very different games. Here's the bottom line, folks. The CRS model is for stability. It's like your heavyweight champ, strong and steady. The VRS model, that's your high flyer, your risk taker, the one that knows how to adapt to the chaos of the real world. And here's where you step into the ring. When it comes to scaling your business, which model do you think fits your style? Are you the steady and proportional type, or are you ready to embrace the unpredictable with VRS? Drop a comment and tell us where you stand in this heavyweight showdown. Oh, where have we landed here? A maze of terms like efficiency scores, benchmarking, and decision making? No problem, it's simple. Let me explain it step by step so it all makes sense. This slide is your manager's cheat sheet, your playbook for turning insights from Data Envelopment Analysis, DEA, into real actionable strategies. So what's the story here? It's all about how managers can take the data from DEA and use it to boost performance, set goals, and outperform the competition. Let's start with the basics. Efficiency scores are like report cards for your organization. If you score 1 or 100%, you're the teacher's pet. You're doing everything as efficiently as possible. Anything below that, there's room to grow. Think of it this way. If your score is 0.8, it means your business is only running at 80% of its potential. That's like running a car with one flat tire. It's moving, sure, but not at full speed. DEA identifies those inefficiencies so you know exactly where the problem is. All right, now that you know your score, what's next? You set targets. This is where DEA becomes your business coach. It tells you here's how much you need to reduce your inputs or boost your outputs to hit that 100% efficiency mark. It's like training for a marathon. If you want to improve your time, you don't just run harder, you optimize your routine. Maybe you need to cut unnecessary processes, like trimming down administrative hours, or increase your output, like producing more with the same resources. Here's the fun part, comparison. DEA doesn't just give you a score in isolation. It shows you how you stack up against your peers. Think of it like running a race. Sure, you've improved your time, but how does it compare to the fastest runner? This benchmarking allows you to study the top performers in your industry. What are they doing differently? How are they managing to get better results with the same resources? Once you know that, you've got a playbook for success. Now comes the critical question. Should you grow bigger or should you scale back? Maybe you're like a small bakery that runs perfectly with 3 ovens but struggles when you add 5 more. Or maybe you're the opposite, so lean that adding more resources would boost efficiency dramatically. DEA helps you figure out whether your business is in the sweet spot, whether you should expand, or whether you're overextending and need to streamline. It's like finding the perfect balance in a recipe, not too much salt, not too little. Finally, DEA arms managers with data-driven insights. No more guessing, no more gut feelings. You've got the numbers, the benchmarks, and the targets. All the tools you need to make smart, strategic decisions. For example, let's say you're considering investing in new technology or hiring more staff. DEA can help you figure out which option will actually improve efficiency and which one might just waste resources. Here's the deal. DEA is like having the ultimate blueprint for your business. It tells you where you're winning and where you're falling short. It helps you set realistic, data-backed goals, and it shows you the path to becoming the top performer in your field. Oh, and don't worry, it's not just about identifying the problems. DEA also gives you the tools to fix them. So where do you think your organization lands on the efficiency scale? Are you hitting that 100%, or do you see areas where you could tighten up? Let me know your thoughts, because this is just the beginning of the journey toward efficiency mastery. So is there a solution for this? Of course, there's a solution. And hey, look at that. There's a solution for that too. And oh, wait, what's this? Yep, another solution. Honestly, it's like Oprah's giving out cars. You get a DEA tool. You get a DEA tool. Here's the deal. When it comes to analyzing efficiency, you don't need to be crunching numbers on a chalkboard like it's 1920. There's software for that. And trust me, it's a lifesaver. But just like ordering coffee at a fancy cafe, there are way too many options. You've got free tools, premium tools, and tools so advanced they could probably predict the weather if you asked them nicely. Let's start with the freebies. These are like your classic cup of coffee. Simple, no frills, but it gets the job done. Deep is one of those straightforward, no-cost tools that says, hey, you don't need to sell your kidney to analyze efficiency. And for those who prefer a little more polish, there's Win for DAP, a Windows-based version that's basically DAPE but dressed up for a business meeting. If you're just dipping your toes into DEA, these free tools are perfect. Now, if you're feeling fancy and want all the bells and whistles, the commercial tools are where it's at. DEA Frontier 9 is like the sports car of DEA tools, sleek, powerful, and built for performance. And then there's DEA Solver Pro 10, which might as well come with a butler to explain all the advanced features. These tools are serious business, designed for companies that want precision and aren't afraid to invest in it. But let's be honest for a second, do we really need this many options. It's like going to an ice cream shop and being overwhelmed by 50 flavors. At some point, you just close your eyes, point, and hope for the best. That's kind of what DEA software feels like. The free tools are great if you're keeping it simple. The premium ones are perfect if you've got complex data or just love a good pie chart. So here's the question. Are you team free or are you going all in with the premium packages? Either way, you'll get the job done without breaking a sweat. Personally, I'd go with whatever saves me from doing long division by hand. Let me know what you choose and stick around because there's still more to uncover in the wild world of DA. And here we have another case study for you. Say it with me. Yeah. Come on. If you love case studies, say, yeah. Wait. Hold on. I can't actually hear you. Oh, right. Because this is a video. Okay. Yeah, that was kind of stupid. Let's just move on before this gets even more awkward. So here's the deal. This case study is all about applying DEA in primary schools. Yep, schools. Because apparently analyzing efficiency isn't just for factories or businesses, it's for classrooms too. Who knew? Picture this. You've got 15 primary schools, all running with different resources. Teachers, administrative staff, computers. But they're all aiming for one thing, educating as many kids as possible. The question is, which schools are doing it efficiently? And which ones are, let's be honest, just winging it? Now, instead of guessing, we bring in the big guns, DEA. We gather data on inputs like teachers and staff and outputs like the number of pupils being educated. Then we run it all through a tool like Win4DEP. It's like putting the schools on a giant treadmill to see which ones are sprinting and which ones are barely moving. Here's what happens next. DEA spits out efficiency scores showing which schools are rocking it and which ones need help. But it doesn't stop there. It also suggests how to improve. Maybe one school needs to hire more teachers, while another could get better results by reallocating staff or investing in tech. It's not just about pointing out problems, it's about offering solutions. And the best part, the schools that are already efficient become benchmarks for the others. It's like saying, hey, look at School 7 over there. If they can do it, so can you. It turns competition into collaboration, which is pretty cool when you think about it. So, do you love case studies now? Say, yeah. Oh, right, still can't hear you. Never mind. Just drop a comment if this kind of analysis blows your mind, because we've got more coming your way. And don't worry, I'll keep the awkward jokes to a minimum, probably. Adjusting for environmental variables sounds fancy, right? But let's cut through the fluff and talk about what's really happening here. This slide is basically saying, hey, not all businesses play on the same field. Some have sunny skies, others are stuck in a storm. So how do we account for those differences? Don't worry, we've got the answer, and it's way simpler than it sounds. Let's imagine two runners in a race. One is on a flat, smooth track, and the other is running uphill in the rain while dodging puddles. Now, if we only look at their times, it's going to seem like the runner on the flat track is faster. But is that really fair? Absolutely not. The conditions matter, and that's exactly what this whole concept of environmental variables is about. In the world of DEA, environmental variables are those factors outside of a manager's control, like economic conditions, regulations, or geography. These aren't things you can just fix by hiring more people or buying better equipment. They're the uphill battles and stormy weather that businesses face. So how do we deal with this? Enter the two-stage method. Sounds intense, but it's really just a clever workaround. In stage 1, we calculate efficiency scores just like normal. Then in stage 2, we adjust those scores based on the environmental variables. It's like giving the uphill runner a handicap to level the playing field. For example, if one factory is in a region with higher taxes and stricter regulations, while another is in a business-friendly zone, the two-stage method adjusts for that. It doesn't let the second factory look better just because it had an easier environment. Fairness restored. And the best part? It's not just about being fair, it's about getting accurate insights. When you adjust for environmental variables, you can see which companies are truly efficient and which ones are coasting on easy conditions. So, whether you're dealing with rainstorms, uphill battles, or the occasional regulatory tornado, this method has your back. It makes sure you're comparing apples to apples, not apples to watermelons. Here's the big question. How many businesses out there are being judged unfairly because no one's accounting for their unique challenges? My guess? A lot. But with tools like the two-stage method, that's starting to change. What do you think? Is your business fighting uphill, or are you the one on the flat track? Let me know, because these insights might just change the way you think about performance analysis forever. Preferences in DEA. Oh, great. Now even the software has opinions. What's next? Our spreadsheets start telling us how they feel about our font choices. But seriously, let's talk about what's going on here, because this isn't just some boring technical concept. It's actually pretty cool. Think of preferences in DEA like setting up your dream sandwich. You walk into the deli and they're like, do you want more cheese or extra meat? And you're standing there thinking, why not both? But no, you've got to prioritize. Cheese lovers, you crank up the cheddar. Meat lovers pile on the pastrami. Same goes for DEA. You're customizing your analysis to reflect what matters most to you or your organization. Let's say you're running a business. Is cutting costs your cheese, or is boosting customer satisfaction your pastrami? You can't treat them the same if one is way more important than the other. DEA gets that, so it lets you adjust the weights. Basically, you decide what deserves the spotlight and what can chill in the background. And here's the fun part. When you start playing with preferences, you get to see what happens when you prioritize one thing over another. It's like the choose your own adventure of efficiency analysis. Focus too much on one area, and you might end up sacrificing something else, kind of like putting too much mayo on your sandwich and ruining the whole vibe. Oh, and this isn't just theoretical, it's been used in real-life case studies, hospitals prioritizing patient care over cost, transportation systems focusing on underserved areas, schools tweaking budgets to favor student outcomes. It's like giving your DEA analysis a personality, making it reflect your real-world values. So, yeah, preferences are the ultimate customization tool. Think of them as your secret weapon to make DEA work for you. But here's the big question. If your organization was a sandwich, what would be your top layer? Efficiency, customer satisfaction, growth? Drop a comment and let me know, because now I'm hungry just thinking about it. Let's talk about sensitivity analysis in DEA. And no, this isn't the type of sensitivity where your coworkers cry over the coffee machine being empty. This is the kind of sensitivity that helps you figure out just how robust your analysis really is. Think of it like stress testing your decisions. If your DEA model were a bridge, sensitivity analysis is the part where you load it up with trucks to see if it holds. Here's the problem. Efficiency scores can feel like the holy grail. You've got your number, you're feeling confident, and you're ready to make big decisions. But wait, what happens if something changes? What if a firm drops out of the analysis, or someone accidentally puts in the wrong data? This is where sensitivity analysis swoops in, like that one overprepared friend who always asks, "But what if?" The whole point of sensitivity analysis is to test your model under different conditions. It's like asking, what happens if I push this button or that one? Will the whole thing collapse, or does it hold up no matter what? And trust me, you want to know this before you base major decisions on your results. Let's get into the specifics. One method is adding or removing firms from the analysis. Imagine you've got a group of 10 companies and one of them is an outlier. Maybe it's way more efficient or way less efficient than the others. What happens to the results if you take it out? Does everyone's score stay the same, or does it throw the whole analysis off if removing one firm changes everything? That's a red flag. Another approach is identifying influential observations. This is like finding the keystone in an arch. Take that one piece out, and the whole thing crumbles. By pinpointing these key players, you can understand which parts of your data are driving the results and make sure they're accurate. Then there's data perturbation, fancy term, but it's basically just tweaking the inputs and outputs to see how much wiggle room you've got. Think of it like tuning a guitar. If your strings are too tight, even a small adjustment makes everything go out of tune. But if there's some flexibility, you can make changes without wrecking the whole song. For example, you could change the data for one efficient firm. Maybe you bump up their output or lower their input. Does the overall ranking of firms stay stable? Or does one little tweak turn the whole analysis upside down? Sensitivity analysis lets you answer these questions and gives you confidence in your model stability. And let's not forget the real-world applications. In industries like healthcare or transportation, small changes in input data could represent millions of dollars or even lives. Imagine basing a decision on a DEA model only to find out later that one flawed data point completely changed the outcome. Sensitivity analysis is your safety net, ensuring that your conclusions are rock solid no matter what. So, here's the big takeaway. Sensitivity analysis isn't just a technical step, it's your insurance policy against bad decisions. It tells you how much trust you can put in your results and where you need to tread carefully. Now, I've got a question for you. How confident are you in the decisions you're making right now? If a small change in the data could derail your entire plan, wouldn't you want to know? That's the power of sensitivity analysis. And if you're not using it, well, let's just say you might be walking across a bridge without knowing if it can hold your weight. Let me know your thoughts. Are you ready to put your models to the test? Or are you still feeling a little sensitive about it? Let me first explain a time series, and then we'll take a deep dive into how it works in DEA. Time series is exactly what it sounds like. It's all about tracking changes over time. Think of it like a diary for data. Instead of looking at a single snapshot, time series lets us see how something has evolved across multiple time periods. Imagine you start working out. On day 1, you lift 50 pounds. A month later, you're at 75. After 6 months, you're benching 120. That's a time series, data points collected over time that show your progress, or lack of it. Now here's where it gets interesting. When we analyze efficiency, we often take a single measurement at a given time. Traditional DEA does exactly that. It looks at one moment and says, hey, this company is operating at 80% efficiency. But what does that really mean? What if last year they were at 90% or 60%? A single score doesn't tell us whether things are getting better, getting worse, or staying the same. That's why we bring in time series DEA. It's like going from a photo to a full documentary of efficiency. Instead of just analyzing a company's performance today, we track how it has performed over multiple years. Are they improving? Are they stagnating? Are they in decline? That's what really matters. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine two companies, both scoring 0.8 on the DEA efficiency scale this year. Sounds like they're equal, right? But now let's check their efficiency over time. Company A. Last year, they were at 0.7. The year before that, 0.6, and before that, 0.5. They've been steadily climbing, improving efficiency every year. Company B. Last year, they were at 0.9. The year before that, 0.95, and before that, 1.0. They've been declining, slowly losing efficiency over time. Same score this year, but very different stories. Company A is on the rise. Company B is slipping. If you just looked at this year's score, you'd completely miss that trend. This isn't just a fun concept. It's something businesses, hospitals, governments, and entire industries rely on to make critical decisions. Manufacturing companies use it to track if their production processes are improving over time or if they're getting sloppy. Banks use it to compare the efficiency of branches over multiple years to see which ones are becoming stronger and which ones are in decline. Hospitals track patient care efficiency. Is a hospital treating more patients with the same resources, or is it getting bogged down? Governments use it to measure public service performance. Are public transportation systems running more efficiently over time, or is the system breaking down year by year? Time series DEA gives decision makers a timeline. So instead of making blind decisions based on a single data point, they get a clear picture of where things are heading. Another powerful use of time series DEA, measuring how businesses respond to crises. Think about what happened to global businesses during economic recessions, financial crashes, or pandemics. Some companies adapted and became even more efficient, while others completely collapsed. Time series DEA shows how these events impact organizations. Imagine a company that was running at 95% efficiency in 2019, then 2020 hits, pandemic, lockdowns, economic chaos, their efficiency plummets to 60%. But by 2021, they bounce back to 85%. And in 2022, they're back at 95%. What does this tell us? They took a hit during the crisis, but they adapted and recovered quickly. Now, imagine another company that starts at 95% efficiency in 2019, drops to 50% in 2020, but by 2022, they're still struggling at 55%. That's a completely different story. One company rebounded, the other never really recovered. Same industry, same crisis, but two completely different trajectories. Time series DEA exposes these long-term trends, helping businesses, investors, and policymakers figure out who's truly resilient and who's stuck in decline. Once an organization sees its efficiency trends over time, it can take actionable steps to improve. If efficiency is increasing, they can analyze what's working and double down on it. If efficiency is steady, they can look for opportunities to optimize and grow. If efficiency is declining, they can pinpoint the problem. Are they overstaffed? Are they wasting resources? Have they fallen behind in innovation? A company that ignores efficiency trends is like a person ignoring their health. You might feel fine today, but if you've been slowly gaining weight, losing muscle, and ignoring exercise, you're setting yourself up for future problems. Time. Series DEA isn't just about efficiency, it's about long-term survival. Businesses and industries that track their performance over time can spot problems before they become disasters, identify best practices, and make smart, data-driven decisions about the future. So here's a question for you. If you had a time series chart of your own efficiency, whether at work, in your personal habits, or even in your daily routines, what would it look like? Are you improving every year, staying the same, or slipping without realizing it? Because whether it's in business or life, one thing is always true. If you're not tracking your progress, how do you know if you're actually moving forward? Let's talk about Malmquist Productivity Index. Sounds complicated, right? Don't worry, I've got you covered. By the time we're done here, you'll know exactly what it is, why it matters, and how it's like leveling up in a video game. So what's the deal with this Malmquist Productivity Index, or MPI for short? Think of it like your performance tracker over time. Unlike regular DEA, which takes a snapshot of efficiency at one point, MPI says, hold on, let's see how things are changing over time. It's not just about how good you are today, it's about whether you're getting better or worse compared to the past. Let's say you own a gym. In 2020, your trainers helped 500 members achieve their fitness goals. In 2021, that number went up to 600. In 2022, it shot up to 800. You're crushing it. But now imagine that in 2023, you drop back to 500. Something went wrong. MPI tells you exactly how much your performance is improving or declining over time. It's like getting a progress report for efficiency. And believe me, businesses, governments, and entire industries pay serious attention to this. You ever play a game where your character levels up and suddenly you unlock better skills? That's kind of how MPI works. It tracks two things: efficiency change. Did you get better at using your resources? Technological change. Did the tools and innovations around you improve? If you improve in both, congrats, you've just leveled up. But if one improves and the other doesn't, or worse, if both go down, then it's time for a strategy shift. Let's take an example from the real world. Imagine two factories making the same product. Factory A was producing 1,000 units per month last year. This year they're at 1,200. Efficiency score goes up. Great. Factory B was also at 1,000 units, but now they're still at 1,000, no change. Not great. But here's where it gets interesting. If Factory A only improved because they got better technology, let's say they bought fancy new machines, then they might not actually be more efficient. They just upgraded their tools. MPI helps separate whether a company's success comes from working smarter or just using better equipment. Real-world applications where MPI changes the game. Healthcare, imagine a hospital that treated 1,000 patients last year, but 1 through 500 this year. Did they actually improve their process, or did they just hire more doctors? MPI breaks that down. Education. A school's test scores go up. Is it because the teachers improved their methods, or did they just get better textbooks? MPI tells the real story. Manufacturing. A factory producing twice as much this year. Are they actually working smarter, or did they just automate half their production line? This is why MPI is so important. It's not just about whether you're producing more, it's about whether you're actually improving efficiency or just relying on external changes. All right, let's talk about a harsh reality. Just because a company is growing doesn't mean it's actually getting better. Remember Kodak? Once upon a time, they dominated photography. They were producing millions of cameras and film rolls, but then boom, digital photography happened and their efficiency meant nothing. Their competitors adopted new technology, and suddenly Kodak was losing efficiency every year, even though they were still producing. MPI would have caught that problem early. It would have shown that while they were operationally fine, they were falling behind in technological change. That's why businesses track MPI. It's not just about today's success, but about staying competitive in the future. What happens when MPI declines? MPI isn't just a score, it's a wake-up call. If a company sees its MPI falling year after year, it's a sign of serious trouble. It means you're not improving efficiency, your staff isn't learning, your processes aren't getting better, you're falling behind in technology, your competitors are using better tools while you're stuck in the past, your industry is evolving, but you're not, customers are moving to new solutions, and you're still doing the same old thing. What can businesses do with MPI data? So let's say you track your MPI and the numbers are not looking good. What now? The smart companies do two things: identify bottlenecks. MPI can pinpoint exactly where the inefficiency is happening. Is it in training, in outdated technology, in a bloated workforce? Invest in smart changes. If the issue is operational efficiency, you train employees. If it's technological change, you invest in better systems. If it's both, well, time for a serious strategy overhaul. Here's a fun thought experiment. If you had your own Malmquist Productivity Index, what would it say? Are you improving every year, learning new skills, and keeping up with change? Or are you staying in the same routine, getting comfortable while the world moves forward? Because here's the thing, businesses that ignore MPI end up like Kodak, and people who ignore their own MPI in life, they miss out on growth. So I'll leave you with this. Are you leveling up, or are you stuck in the past? Drop a comment and let me know how you'd rate your own productivity over the last few years, because just like businesses, we all have our own version of an MPI to track. All right, here we are, one last stop before we wrap this up. But before we roll the credits, let's talk about something crucial, the big picture. We've gone deep into efficiency, DEA models, time series analysis, and even the Malmquist Productivity Index. But here's the real question. What does all of this actually mean for you your business, and the future. See, it's one thing to measure efficiency. It's another thing to use that data to drive real change. DEA isn't just about running numbers, it's about making smarter decisions, reducing waste, improving performance, and staying ahead of the competition. And if we zoom out even further, it's not just businesses that need this. Entire economies are using these models to figure out where to invest, which industries are thriving, and where policy changes are needed, from hospitals optimizing patient care to governments designing better public services. DEA is shaping the way we think about efficiency on a massive scale. So here's the real takeaway. If you're not measuring, you're guessing. And in a world that's moving this fast, guessing isn't good enough. The companies that track their efficiency, analyze their trends, and adapt, they're the ones that win. The ones that sit back and assume everything is fine, well, we've seen how that story ends. Here's something to think about. If you had a personal DEA score, how efficient would your life be? Are you spending your time wisely? Are you investing in the right skills, the right habits, the right goals? Or are you running in circles, burning through resources and wondering why things aren't moving forward? Because whether it's business or life, efficiency is everything. And the people who figure that out, they don't just work harder, they work smarter. So that's it. We've covered everything from the basics of DEA to real-world applications and how businesses can use these insights to improve. And now it's over to you. What do you think? What's your biggest takeaway from all this? Drop a comment. Let's discuss. And oh yeah, if you found this valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you insights that actually matter. Because in the end, it's not just about understanding efficiency, it's about applying it. And the best time to start? Right now. That's a wrap.